Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. My focus at CIBC is on the advisory and bond underwriting side. Fair to say that as an organization, infrastructure is one of a few core global businesses, something that we put a lot of priority on. We have people in numerous markets around the world, and something that a topic where we feel like we've had some success. So what are some of the objectives of P3s? None of these are particularly surprising. Maintain or improve service levels. We were working on a road recently on a transaction we did in Western Canada, and the specifications set out by the government were much more stringent than they were for the roads that they maintained. And we asked them, are you sure you want these standards? And they said, yes, we know they're higher than our own standards, but our objective in the P3 business is to actually elevate the standards. Secondly, access to new, better skills from the private sector, increased technology. The private sector is very innovative, and we've seen this in, for example, hospitals. They're looking to minimize their costs, and one way of doing that might be, for example, patient movements. They can organize the hospital in ways where it's well thought out, so there's less time spent moving patients from one place to the other. So the private sector can bring new technology, new innovation, which results in lower costs, which ultimately, through a bidding process, is passed on to all of us as taxpayers. Maintain safe operations, clear, optimize risk transfer. This is the right balance between who should bear what risk. And we often say we'll pass the risk to the party best able to bear it. And clearly that's an objective, and it's carefully balanced between making sure you transfer the right risks, such as on-time completion, on-budget completion, and don't try to transfer every risk to the private sector. Every risk can be transferred at a price, but not at a price that you might like. Procure assets using a life cycle costing approach. Too often what happens is we procure assets and the bar is set, and so every bidder comes in and says, I will try to just meet the specifications at the lowest cost. I'll hand it over to the government, and of course it doesn't last as long as expected because there's no incentive to do. One of the key motivations of a public-private partnership, in the words of one of our clients, is I want a long-term warranty. I want to know if I'm buying something for 30 years, that I effectively have a 30-year warranty on that project. And that's one of the key objectives of a P3. And finally, achieving value for money. There's no point in transferring risk if at the end of the day, when you look at the risk-reward trade-offs, you've transferred too much risk, or you've transferred risk at a price that's too high. There are increasing number of jurisdictions that are doing P3s. Over the decade we've been in this business, we've seen it grow dramatically in Canada. The U.S. market, we think, is going to increase the number of P3s very, very significantly. In our discussions with my colleagues at FirstCaribbean, a lot of interest. Latin America. So we're seeing an explosive growth in P3s around the world. P3 procurement processes evolve. They're always a little bit slow and awkward at the beginning, but they evolve and they can be extremely efficient. The number of participants is significant, and their parties, Mike Marasco from Plenary, others who are here that are active in the Canadian market, active in U.S., Australia market, they're looking to broaden their activities throughout the world. The track record generally has been good. In Canada, it's been extremely good. In certain markets, there have been some that have what I'll call where there's been financial difficulty, but they're still good from the public sector perspective, because if there are some challenges to a P3, what that means is that the government actually transferred some real risk and is getting value out of that risk transfer. So sometimes a project where there can be challenges, that can actually be a good thing from a taxpayer perspective. Finally, there is some limit to the amount of experience in terms of projects that have gone the full life cycle, so through the construction and completion and operation phase, right to the handback. But because this is a maturing business, we're going to be seeing some more of the projects around the world get to that final phase. So that was intended to be a very quick overview. As I say, some of you would have known most of that, but hopefully it provides a basis for the rest of the conference, where we're going into a number of different topics. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention.